Yeah, we back. Yeah, we back. Now, I'm going to try to attack this subject in the most respectful and delicate way possible. It's going to be a follow-up video to the ones I dropped last week in regards to, everything that happened in South Africa with that lady in the beauty pageant or whatever. And I'm going to be reacting to some comments that I got in my comment section. And then I'm going to be reacting to a story coming out of South Africa that kind of pretty much puts things in perspective for me and kind of backs up what I was saying last week. Now, when the topic of South Africa comes up, the subject of xenophobia soon follows. But the brand of xenophobia in South Africa is what I call Afrophobia. Because if it was just standard generic xenophobia, then it would be directed towards all groups, all backgrounds, all cultures, all races. But you see, it's mainly directed towards the black foreigners. So that's why I call it Afrophobia. Now, of course, in my comment section, I had some people trying to push back. I had some detractors trying to provide some pushback to what I was saying. Now, of course, their views and opinions do not represent the entirety of the black South African population, but the sentiment is pretty widespread from what I can see. Now, before we jump into the topic of today's video, which is a white South African farmer committing an unspeakable crime against two black women in South Africa, I want to jump into my comment section from my videos last week in regards to the whole fiasco surrounding the beauty pageant. And then afterwards, we're going to jump into today's topic. So take a look up on the screen. This person last week came into my comment section and they said this: he seems to want black South Africans to start a war with the white people in South Africa. You can even tell by how he's praising the comments for going hard on the whites. I'm not sure why he thinks that uniting Africans is more important than keeping peace in South Africa with the white people. Now, I want to repeat that last sentence because it's going to be connected to the topic we're going to discuss later on in the video. This person said, and I believe it was a woman, she said, I'm not sure why he, meaning myself, thinks that uniting African people is more important than keeping peace with the whites in South Africa. Now, I know this sentiment does not represent the entirety of the black South African population, but it definitely represents a decent segment from what I can see, right? Where some of them feel that it's more important to maintain peace and camaraderie and friendship with the whites in South Africa, their fellow citizens, right, as they say, than to maintain peace and camaraderie and friendship with other Africans from different nations, right? And because of that sentiment, you also see some politicians also feeding into that to secure votes and to bolster their political ambitions. Now, let's continue. This person said, we are South African and we don't follow Pan-African ideologies. We will continue to celebrate South Africans no matter the race. All right. This person said, this was never about race in South Africa, yet the rest of Africa makes it about race. Worry about what's happening in your own homeland and leave us alone. We are much more advanced thinking and culturally open, and never fail to remember that we are a black, white, Indian, and colored family in South Africa. This person said, this guy hates white people and he wants us South Africans to help him. Now, I don't hate anybody. I don't understand how they came to that conclusion. But let's, for a hypothetical example, let's say I did, right? I would be justified in my position, in my opinion. I'd be justified, but I don't, right? So I just want to clarify that. Let's continue. This person said, being African doesn't make you South African. So fuck y'all. All right. Now, for those of y'all that watch my videos on that topic, you already know I don't hold any hard feelings towards black South Africans. I understand they're a diverse group of people, politically and ideologically. Everybody does not hold the same mentality, and I understand that. So I'm not gonna judge them all for the thoughts of a few people, right? I'm not gonna judge the entire population for the actions of a few. Because if I did that, then I would be stooping down to their level, because that's what some of them do, right? They judge an entire group of people for the thoughts and actions of a few. And when you start doing that, that's when you jump into xenophobic territory, Afrophobic territory, etc., etc. Now, anyways, a story had recently came out of South Africa. Take a look up on the screen. A white man on the R71 road farm shot and killed two black women and after fed their bodies to the pigs. This must be attended by all of us South Africans, and he must be used as an example that such nonsense will never be tolerated. Now, I just want to give the disclaimer that yes, I know in the eyes of some South Africans, I'm just an irrelevant black foreigner, so my thoughts and opinions they don't really hold much value. But due to the fact that I am a Pan-Africanist, right, I do love my people all over the world. This story definitely, it definitely bothered me. It definitely bothered me. Because when you love your people, it doesn't matter where they're from. It doesn't matter what language they speak. It doesn't matter what origins they derive from. You love your people. That's what it is, man. That's what it is. There's no exceptions to that rule. Now, the interesting twist of events that occurred in this story is actually two of the women, right? One of the women is a native South African woman, right? Native South African. And the other one is a foreign national, is a black foreigner, right? She's not a Nigerian. I believe she was a Zimbabwean, right? So you have two women, a South African and a Zimbabwean, killed by a white South African, right? The Rainbow Nation, right? The white South African citizen who they say, oh, that's my white South African brother, right? So the white South African brother killed the native black woman and the foreign black woman, right? Meanwhile, the black South African, they worried about the black foreigners. But when I bring up the issue, when I bring up the point in my last videos that you're preoccupied, you're utilizing all this time, energy, and mental space, sending all the smoke in the direction of the so-called black foreigner, who you share more commonalities with, socially, culturally, economically, than the white South African, who, to be honest, outside of the nationality on paper, what do you really have in common? Economically, socially, in terms of your economic standing, your social standing, who has committed more acts of terrorism against you in terms of historically and in the present day? And keep in mind, economic terrorism is a form of terrorism. So I simply brought up the point that when you gather all of these facts, who should you really be having the most smoke for? Is it really the immigrant, the black immigrant, the black migrant, the black foreigner? Or is it really the white European settler who is the descendant of those who humiliated and committed acts of terror against your forefathers? And notice that when the white European settler decided to carry out his act of terror, he didn't make the distinction between, okay, this is a native South African, this is a black foreigner. No, when he decided to carry out his criminal intentions, he gave it out equally to both the native South African and the black foreigner. So it never made sense to me why we are fighting amongst each other when we have common adversaries that are equally hostile towards us. That was simply the sentiment I was trying to express in my videos last week, and maybe I didn't express it effectively and it didn't really land because I was still getting pushback by some South Africans. But this is what I'm talking about, right? And obviously, as you can see, this is not getting the same visibility or promotion or outrage or conversation as the beauty pageant topic from last week, right? Everybody was up in arms. Everybody had their pitchforks and their torches out for the beauty pageant conversation with the lady with the Nigerian father. But when it comes to the white South African settler committing acts of terror against the native South Africans equally and the black foreigners also, you don't see the same outrage. You don't see the same conversation, right? I'm talking about it on my page, but you don't see the same level of conversation being had on this topic, right? What I was simply bringing up the fact is have that same courage. Have that same courage with those who are your historical enemies, right? Even though today you might not see them as that, but they are that. They are your historical enemies, right? If your forefathers came back from the grave today, they would tell you these are your historical enemies. I was simply saying that have the same energy across the board for everybody who trespasses against you. Everybody who commit acts of crime against you, you should have the same level of energy. Don't become big and bad with the Nigerian and then you want to become meek and respectful and docile when it comes to the white South African, when it comes to the European descendant. That's all I was saying, man. That's all I was saying. But anyways, let's jump straight into this article. Take a look up on the screen. A farmer and two workers are in court after two decomposed bodies were found in a pigsty. Let's jump into the article. A farmer and two of his employees who are accused of killing two women and throwing their bodies into a pigsty made a brief appearance in court on Friday on charges of murder. Now, I'm happy they're at least being brought to justice, at least. Because I saw this story, a few days ago, but I didn't really see any headlines on it. I was waiting to see any developments being made, right? Now, like I said, I just want that same smoke, right? Just treat this white South African the same way you would treat a Nigerian, right? In your mind, I'm talking to the xenophobic South Africans, right? In your mind, I want you to close your eyes, right? Close your eyes and imagine that this was not a white South African. This was a Nigerian man, right? A Nigerian drug dealer on top of it, right? His name, I believe the names of the perpetrators is like Rudolph something and Zachariah, whatever. But forget about that. Forget about that. I want you to imagine that the perpetrators were named Oluwafemi Adebayo, right? forget that they were white South Africans. I'm trying to ignite the hearts of the xenophobic South Africans. I want you to imagine that this crime was committed by, Ngozi Kelechi Chokudu or something like that, right? Or Nkechi money bags or something like that, right? Big drug dealer in South Africa, committing crimes all across Johannesburg. I want you to imagine that so you can get inside the zone, right? And then I want you to attach those same feelings that you just felt inside your heart, inside your spirit, and attach that to the white South African that committed these crimes, right? I want that to be your motivation that spurs you on to avenge the honor and the memory of those who were deceased in this crime, right? In this criminal act. Now, let's continue. The suspects were arrested after the discovery of decomposed bodies of 2 women in a pigsty on a farm on Tuesday. The arrest followed a thorough investigation by the Provincial Tracking Team and Murder and Robbery Unit. The investigation began when Maria Magado, 45 years old, a South African woman, went missing after visiting the farm last Saturday, accompanied by a 35-year-old foreign national. Both women sustained gunshot wounds, and a 47-year-old foreign national man who was with them was also shot and hospitalized. Now, this is why it's so stupid to me when I see, different groups of blacks fighting. Oh man, the South Africans versus the Nigerians, this group versus that group. And it's also stupid to me when I see the South Africans make it seem like their biggest issue is not the white European squatters on their farmland, and instead their true issue and their true adversary is the Nigerian or the Zimbabwean foreign national, who is in an equally economically precarious situation as them. Because as you can see, the white South African made no differentiation, right? He looked at the black South African woman, he looked at the black Zimbabwean woman, and he shot them both dead and fed them both to the pigs. But if you try to explain this to the xenophobic South African, right, the Afrophobic South African, they'll instead tell you how the white South African is actually their fellow citizen. That's their brother in the Rainbow Nation, and they have more of a connection to them than they do to you, So, it is what it is. I'll never understand the concept of having more smoke, having more energy for somebody who's on the come up, just like you, trying to make a living, trying to survive, instead of directing that same energy to the group of people who actually placed you in the precarious situation that you find yourself in today. A common reason for xenophobia is scarcity of resources, right? Or the illusion of scarcity of resources, because you feel there isn't enough to go around. So you are trying to gatekeep the little that you already have, and you're trying not to lose the little that you already possess, right? But instead of addressing the root cause of what is the reason that you have so little? Why do you have such a scarcity mindset? What are the historical reasons behind that? And addressing that head on, you'd rather direct the energy to the foreign national who's in the same level, in the same predicament as you. Now, this is not the first time something like this has occurred in South Africa, from my knowledge, right? And I also don't believe that the person who committed this crime was not the first time they did this, because I think that crime is something that you eventually build up to, right? I don't think the first time you do crime, you jump straight to murder and feeding bodies to the pigs. I think that's like a gradual buildup, right? So, but anyways, right, take a look up on the screen. About 20 years ago, as you can see at the top, this article is more than 19 years old. A white farmer found guilty of throwing a black worker to lions in South Africa. Right now, listen, this is what I was talking about in my videos last week. Right, I was like, you cannot show unwavering bravery against a black man, right? Against the so-called black foreigner, right? You can't become a fearless warrior against a black foreigner, but you become a docile citizen against the white farmer, against the white South African. I'm saying, just keep that same energy across the board, man. That's all I was saying in my video last week. That's all I was saying, right? Keep that same energy across the board for everybody. Don't reserve your bravery for the black man only, right? Let's distribute the bravery to all demographics equally. Now, that's all I was saying, man. Anyways, let's take a look at some of the reactions on social media, right? This person said, well, we cannot interfere on South African issues as we are black foreigners. But if it's true, however, it is sad. Now, I don't get caught up in that, man. Black foreigner, black national, black citizen, man. Listen, when I seen the photos of the victims, all I seen my mama, I seen my sister, I seen the women in my family, right? I don't get caught up in that, is she a Nigerian? Is she an Ethiopian? I don't let that be the determining factor of whether I have love and empathy for my people. You know, I just don't. I think that's low intelligence. Anyways, this person said that farm must be taken away and be given to the families of the victims. I agree. This person said it is unfortunate. The real court should be the surrounding community. For sure, they can render a fair justice to the crime committed. Absolutely, right? Swift justice, right? Swift justice. This person said, who else did they murder? This sounds excessive for a first-time crime. I agree. That's what I'm saying. I don't think somebody goes from having a clean record, you know, never committed a crime, and then you jump straight to murder and mutilation of a corpse. I think that's a major jump. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think that's a major jump, right? And if you feeding the bodies to the pigs, that means you were trying to dispose of the evidence. You're trying to discard of the evidence. You know, and then imagine they got away with it, right? These women would have just disappeared. There's a lot of cases like that where somebody disappears, goes missing, and they just fall off the face of the earth. That's one of the ways it happens, right? You feed the bodies to the pigs, you dump it in the ocean, things like that, right? So anyways, man, like I said, to the xenophobic South Africans, I want you to imagine that this crime was committed by a Nigerian, right? This crime was committed by Ogochukwu, all right? I want you to imagine that so you can summon the spirit of bravery to avenge the spirit of these two women who have now transitioned to become ancestors. Now let's continue. This person said, this story is not trending, but we understand why. This person said, this was a murder of the highest level, and these people deserve to be punished for it. Life in prison. Everything they own should be given to the victims' families. Now, I don't got too much to say, right? You know, last week I was bombarded with comments in my comment section telling me, you know, shut your mouth, nigga. You know, you a foreigner. You know, don't worry about South African business. This South African business. You know, these are our white South African brothers. You know, fuck you, nigga. Like, listen, y'all was going crazy in my comment section. Y'all went so crazy, I had to shut off the comment section in one of the videos because y'all was going so crazy, right? So I'm just saying, right? It's an ironic twist of events. Y'all say, man, these are we South Africans. These are white South African brothers. Fuck you, black foreigners. That's what y'all was saying. Meanwhile, the white South African, he killed the black South African and he killed the black foreigner and he fed both of their bodies to the pigs. So I'm just saying, have that same energy. The same sentiment I expressed in my video last week. When you see the black man, you become big and bad. You become courageous. You become a fearless warrior. I want you to have that same energy for all demographics across the board, man. All demographics across the board, man. The white South African fed your sister's body to the pigs, bro. Fed your sister's bodies to the pigs, bro. You cannot let that go unanswered. Anyways, man, it's your boy Neferkari Salim back in the building. Yes, indeed. Cash App in the description. Support the album, man. Support the album. Peace. Oh, and by the way, just because I see that the media is actively trying to cover up the identities of the perpetrators, I just want to put out there that their names are Rudolph de Wet and Zachariah Oliver, right? Dutch settlers, South African descendants of Dutch settlers. Right, they're not Nigerians, Zimbabweans, Ghanaians, you know, Senegalese, Black Africans. No, they are your white brothers and sisters from the Rainbow Nation. Anyways, man, I'm gone. Peace.
No. Feel like I'm 75. Know that your team be full of them traders. You know that can never be mine. I'm grabbing a thought when I drive. I'm back in my zone and we on. She said that she ready to come be my wife. Yeah, hoping I don't do her wrong. I gave her my word and it's bond. I'm whipping the best like a lamb. I mean no chicken and lamb. Accustomed to call me the man. I never be up on the gram. I'm keeping that way undercover. She want me to tell her I love her. I told her I'm breaking the rules. I told her we making the news. Back in my city they loving me. Standing alone I'm 100 deep. Enemy plotting and still in reach. They try to make sure that we underneath. Trying to make sure that we never make it. Coming for power, come get acquainted. Coming for everything that I wanted. Feeling like Drake but I really wrote it. Feeling like Kendrick, I'm checking names. Gotta roll up while I go insane. Got so much stress, I been gained weight. Stuffing these racks in this Louis case. One thing for certain, I'm about to check. Keep it 100 and nothing less. Stick with the family since day one. Had to stay down till my day come. Had to stay down, but I'm never patient. Hop on the mic and I'm motivated. Hop on the mic and I drop a classic. Haters can't see me, they copping glasses. Back in the studio making magic. Got a new tape and it's in production. Back on my business, I got a budget. Staying low key when I'm out in public. Feel like I'm 75. Know that your team be full of them traders. You know that can never be mine. I'm I'm grabbing a thought when I drive. I'm back in my zone and we on. She said that she ready to come be my wifey and hoping I don't do her wrong. I gave her my word in this bond. I'm whipping the best like a lamb. I mean no chicken and lamb. Accustomed to call me the man. I never be up on the gram. I'm keeping that way undercover. She want me to tell her I love her. I told her I'm breaking the rules. I told her we making the news.